Patch 12.10 is completely insane with the champion-wide durability update. We expect a pretty interesting shakeup in the solo queue meta and are excited to set you guys up with the 3 best solo carries for every single role. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. If you weren't already sold on Kayle in previous patches, she's only becoming stronger for 12.10. Champions like Kayle, who are a little more lackluster throughout the early game, but come online massive with a couple of items, are going to be loving these changes. An extra 70 base health at level 1 means it's way more difficult for the enemy to exploit Kayle. Surviving the early stages will be much easier now, which indirectly propels Kayle to a premier standing. That isn't to say all her matchups will become a breeze though, as someone like Riven who's extremely mobile is a great ban to consider. The build is very situational, as it should be. Nashor's is the standard rush, Wit's End when against an AP top, and Kraken Slayer if your team is lacking any AD threat. Kayle has options in regards to her keystone, running one of lethal tempo or press the attack. PTA is great in more difficult lanes where you need short trades to win out, while lethal tempo is best in extended fights. With many tanks becoming indirectly stronger in 12.10, Fiora will drastically rise in power. The true damage that she possesses gives her the edge up on many other fighters when it comes to chopping down tanks. Fiora also scales exceptionally well herself, so being able to reach her spikes easier due to more early durability being added is great. Although Fiora is amazing into most tanks, Malphite can be pretty annoying with his attack speed slow, so he's a solid ban option. Keep an eye on Fiora's core build moving forward. All systems with healing are being reduced from 10 to 28%, so Gore Drinker and Ravenous Hydra will become slightly weaker. A Trinity or Stridebreaker rush is something we expect to garner a lot more attention instead of Gore Drinker. The most popular Gore into Ravenous and Death's Dance build is going to be hit pretty hard, so an alternative like Stride into Blade and Hullbreaker is something to watch. Grasp and Conqueror are both viable keystones for Fiora. Grasp is going to work best for short trades, while Conqueror is optimal in extended fights. When it comes down to scaling tanks, there are few who offer more power than the Forge God. These durability changes are going to be ridiculous for Ornn. Many champions are being hit with compensation nerfs to their healing and shielding power, but since Ornn doesn't have any in his kit, he's going to have an even greater edge up. Reaching that godly level 13 will only become more frequent, and an Ornn that gets to buff up his teammates' items is extremely difficult to beat. Ornn has already been one of the strongest solo queue tanks in previous patches, so he's going to be a monster in 12.10. Look to ban out Camille when playing Ornn, as her true damage can be difficult to play around. Ornn's core build is a Sunfire Rush, followed by Thornmail 2nd and Force of Nature 3rd. Winter's Approach is an option as well, but now becomes indirectly weaker due to shields becoming less effective this patch. Frozen Heart can also be built in place of Force of Nature when the enemy comp is heavy AD. Grasp and Spellbook are viable keystones for Ornn, however, we would recommend just sticking to Grasp unless you are a very experienced Ornn player. The Troll King is set up to dominate the jungle meta in 12.10. More scaling resists on all champions means Trundle's ultimate becomes indirectly stronger and an even more devastating counter to tanks. As a very simple jungler to pick up, combined with the fact he'll be great in meta, earns Trundle a spot on our top 3. Olaf seeing a spike in play rate is amazing for Trundle, as he's always been a great counter. Statistically, Trundle players are winning over 58% of the time in the Olaf matchup, which is completely insane. AP burst junglers like Evelynn and Diana are the only matchups Trundle struggles against in solo queue, so banning Diana with how much she's being played is a great idea. Core Trundle build is a Divine Sunderer rush into Titanic Hydra 2nd. Third item is highly variable, as a Thornmail, Spirit Visage, or Death's Dance can all work depending on the game. For runes, grab Press the Attack against squishier junglers, while Lethal Tempo will provide the most power into tanks or bruisers that you will need to chop down in extended fights. The armor per level buffs for all champions are going to help one jungler out more than the rest, and that champ is Rammus. The added health and magic resist is great as well, but for a champion whose damage scales off armor, 12.10 is going to be a magnificent patch for the Armadillo. Rammus is definitely being slept on in general over the past couple patches, as his early gank power with Ghost is super potent. Ghost with Q active gives the enemy no time to react, as you'll just zoom past any wards and be on top of the enemy before they even realize. With Trundle's play rate likely spiking in 12.10, he's a good ban to consider when playing Rammus. While many champions are seeing their core items nerfed, Rammus doesn't build any items with healing or shielding, so he'll become indirectly stronger in that regard. A Chem Tank Rush followed by Thornmail second and Dead Man's or Force of Nature third is very standard. Aftershock is the no-brainer keystone with Font of Life, Conditioning, and Unflinching. Triumph and Alacrity work best for secondaries. The Bear's going nowhere in 12.10 and will remain a top 3 jungle pickup. We see Rammus and Volley as the top 2 junglers, especially for the lower elos, as the durability changes are straight up massive for them. The way Volibear plays is perfect for solo queue, as his engage is reliable, super effective, and very easy to execute. Chem Tank completion is where you can start popping off, catching enemies out left, right, and center. Wukong is one of the only matchups you gotta watch out for right now, and is definitely worth a ban. Not a single one of Volley's core items are being nerfed, as Chem Tank, Dead Man's, and Force of Nature don't have any healing or shielding effects. For runes, pick up Press the Attack with Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand. Secondaries are Celerity and Water Walking. Taliyah mid is looking like one of the most broken champions in the game after her mini rework. So many amazing changes that have pushed her back into meta, ranging from the AoE Q to E, now stunning when enemies try to dash through. Since Taliyah has top tier map impact with her shove power, passive movement speed, and semi-global with ult, she's the perfect solo queue mid laner. The new E changes made Taliyah a potent counter into the likes of Yasuo, Yone, and Sylas. However, there are a few matchups to watch out for. Cat and Zed are 2 of the best bans for Taliyah due to their ability to dodge out on your E stun. Everfrost or Ludens work best for Taliyah's Mythic, while second item depends a lot on the situation. Shadow Flame is played the most and works best into squishier comps. Archangels helps a ton with Taliyah's mana issues and is pretty undervalued, being picked 50% less than Shadow Flame. Rylai's is another option and definitely the most slept on item for Taliyah, as the passive slow synergizes so well with her kit. Electro is the most common keystone, however many high elo Taliyah players are liking First Strike. Into melee mids that you can constantly poke early on is where First Strike will be of best value. These consistent damage mid laners that can shred tanks are going to be on the rise for 12.10, which is why Cassio slots into the top 3. With the added durability this patch, games should theoretically last longer due to less early snowball potential, which suits Cass super well. If Cass can reach her 3-item core, the likelihood of being able to solo carry goes through the roof. Taliyah is definitely a great ban for Cass this patch, as her zone control can be hard to play around in teamfights. Everfrost, Archangels, and Rylai's are not expensive items either, so completing that core on a consistent basis if you can farm efficiently is very doable. Priority on Liandry's will rise this patch, and you should be swapping around Everfrost and Liandry's based on the enemy comp. Conqueror is Cassio's best keystone with Presence of Mind, Tenacity, and Last Stand. Conditioning and Overgrowth are optimal secondaries. To round out the mid lane top 3, we have another strong skirmisher in Vladimir. Vlad is going to take over the mid lane meta in 12.10, as his ability to hit level 9 unscathed becomes way more of a reality. If the enemy cannot punish Vlad before he begins to scale, he's going to 1v9 games, and with the durability update, exploiting Vlad in lane won't be all that easy. Cass and Mal's are 2 of the best counters to Vlad, so they are worthwhile ban options. Build for Vlad is pretty simple, with a Rocket Belt Rush into Cosmic Drive 2nd and Rabadon's 3rd. Electrocute or Airy are viable rune options when playing into melee matchups, while Phase Rush and Predator work best into ranged. Strong scaling ADCs get a nice indirect boost in 12.10, and Vayne will be on the forefront. So many of the changes are amazing for Vayne, as the base health buffs will help her survive the early levels easier. The incentive to pick tanks will rise in 12.10, which gives Vayne a ton of value due to her true damage consistent shredding power. Building a Kraken in combination with Vayne's true damage will do wonders in countering the durability buffs. Shield Bow will remain a great mythic purchase as well, but the Kraken and Blade combo is going to be pretty nuts. Lethal Tempo is Vayne's best keystone with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Prioritize Conditioning and Overgrowth for secondaries. Even prior to the 12.10 changes, Kog'Maw has been holding the highest win rate for any ADC in solo queue. His play rate is always on the lower side, but that should really change moving forward. Hybrid Kog'Maw is going to be absolutely insane this patch, as he'll do an amazing job at annihilating anyone in sight while being very difficult for the enemies to kill. Rage Blade into Hurricane and Titanic Hydra is the core build. By himself, Kog'Maw is a top 3 ADC this patch, but when paired with the Lulu, Soraka, or Nami, it's not going to be fair. Cog's main weakness has always been staying alive long enough to be impactful, and that will now be much easier in 12.10. The best rune page is Lethal Tempo, with Triumph, Bloodline, and Last Stand. Conditioning and Overgrowth are the best secondaries. Lucian will no longer be the #1 ADC this patch, but he's still holding on to a top 3 position. As long as Nami continues to be picked at an extremely high rate, there's no reason to drop Lucian from the champion pool. Durability changes will make it more difficult to one-shot the enemy early on, but it won't matter in regards to winning out in trades. You may lose out on a kill here and there, but the ability for you to dominate lane will remain very high. Kraken build has been slept on in previous patches, but that should start to change. Gale Force into squishies and Kraken into tanks is the simple rule of thumb. Essence Reaver and Infinity Edge round out the core. Run PTA as the keystone with Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Coup de Grace. Free Boots and Biscuits are the go-to secondaries. Enjoy your Senna Freelo while it lasts, as we expect her to be the first champion nerfed in 12.11. Senna has been arguably the best solo queue support in previous patches, and she only becomes stronger in 12.10. Senna wants to scale. Her souls allow her to thrive the later the game goes, so durability buffs are massive. Although an Umbral Rush has been extremely broken as of recent, Kraken does become indirectly stronger now. Umbral Glaive with Eclipse is a great core to run into squishier comps, but if you're playing against heavy tanks, then Kraken should be prioritized. Many enchanters becoming indirectly weaker due to the heal and shield nerfs, Zilean is going to be super sleeper OP. Pairing Zilean up with your scaling ADC like Vayne or Kog'Maw and decimating these more durable comps will be great. Zill himself paired up with tanks is insanely broken too, as the main weakness to most tanks is their lack of mobility, but Zilean's speed boosts make up for that. Killing off one massive tank is already difficult enough, so when you factor in Zilean ultimate, he's going to be an incredible pick. Shurelya's and Archangels and Wardstone is a really great core in 12.10. The rune page is Summon Airy with Mana Flow, Celerity, and Water Walking. Grab Cheap Shot and Relentless Hunter for secondaries. Even though Riot nerfed Renata in 12.9, her solo queue win rate actually increased, which is pretty disgusting. Renata Glask is ridiculously strong if you can play her at an average level, and absolutely godlike if piloted well. The heal and shielding nerfs will hit Renata not where all of her power lies. Soraka is solely reliant on W and ult healing later on, whereas Renata has other tools to be effective. A Locket Rush will become weaker now, so Shurelya's is going to be the best option. Since Grievous Wounds are nerfed and healing is as well, the value on Putrefier won't be nearly as high. Shurelya's into Ardent second will be a really interesting build to try. Guardian is Renata's keystone with Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Revitalize. Run Biscuits and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent Challenger players into ELO Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So there you have it guys, the top 3 solo carries for all roles as we see a massive shakeup in the meta. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you back soon.